Welcome to first talk show from Fibo Talk. And in this, we are planning to do product management discussions and how to grow products and bring some very interesting founders and product leaders. And in that series, my first guest is Brij Purohit. He's a long-term entrepreneur, more than 7 years. And at present, he's a co-founder of SellerApp, which is about 3.5 years old company, which is helping sellers on Amazon make a big business. So over to Brij. He will give us a small introduction. Brij, tell us something about your entrepreneurial journey and what you guys are doing at SellerApp.
Hey Rahul, thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me on this talk. So that's the very interesting question, right? So about me, my journey, all of that, right? So it's it's now in this startup ecosystem into the startups. It's now 7.5, 8 years, and journey started with when I was like 2.5 years in corporate job. Probably at that point of time, I switched into startups. My first startup I started into customer analytics sites that was mostly understanding the patterns and the buying behavior of the people.
Oh, okay.
That was more of a marketplace model where the companies can reach out to us and we will do the customer understanding and analytics on the customer behaviors and we'll give them better feedback, right? So think of it in a way that let's say if the company wants to launch a product in India, right, and they want to understand that at what price he has to sell, what is the uh, general buyer patterns here, right? And they want to understand how the customer is going to respond to the products, or maybe to the flavor or the fragrance of those things, right? So it was mostly in that direction. And but what happened that time, generally marketplace model require a lot of funds and investments and all. We ran it for 2.5, 3 years. We raised funds. We understood, okay, this space requires a lot of money. And at that point of time, we pivoted, right? We pivoted in terms of, okay, what needs to be done next.
Okay.
I spent quite some time in doing some sort of services business, doing the softwares for the other startup, understanding that what they want and building the things for them, right? But because of my experience with the businesses or the e-commerce businesses, I was able to understand that there is definitely a need on this space, right? And that 6 month to 9 month, which I spent on doing the services, I understood that, okay, this space, more I talk to these customers, more I understand there is a problem, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at typically the model of Flipkarts or general Flipkarts or Amazon of the world, right? So generally that marketplace model, these companies have one directional focus that they want to make sure that the customer is happy.
Correct.
And even in general, if you look at on internet or the softwares or the tools which are there, they will help you to look from a customer side, right? So let's say there are the review software, there are the ratings websites which help you to understand which product is best versus comparison, pricing website, all of that.
Right.
But think of a space where there is a lot of things for customers to make the right choices, but there is nothing for sellers or the business or the supply side to understand what they need to do.
Correct.
Right? And that was the gap we figured out, and we took some time to understand the problem space. We talked to a lot of customers in this space, in the India, in Northern America market, in the European market, and we understood definitely there is a problem in each space, right? It's just that the few people or the few businesses in the region are ahead in terms of their understanding and using data in the problem space, right?
Right.
So if you look at, let's say, this was our learning that point of time, right? So when we talk to the Indian businesses, we understood, okay, for them there is a problem, but they really don't understand how to fix this problem and what is the how big this problem is, right? But on the other side, if you look at, let's say, if you talk to the North American sellers, right, or the European sellers, so they understand, okay, definitely there is a gap that can be fixed with a knowledge of the data or to help them to understand the insight and the patterns. But this was the gap that point of time in the Indian market.
Okay.
So for us, this was a validation of a problem. Right? And when we launched this time, because of my past experience in the other startups, it was so. Okay, I don't know, as in like I am going over a stretch or.
No, please.
Entrepreneurial
journeys are very.
Yeah, so I'm
Please,
trying to
please, please.
explain that what
Yes,
happened
yes.
at that point of time with us, right?
Yeah.
So where I was, so this is what happened, right? That point of time, and we understood definitely problem is there. People want to pay money, get this problem solved, but there is no right way to solve this problem, right?
Okay.
And that point of time, because of the SaaS business and because of my past experience working as in the marketplace model, it was always clear for us that we want to focus on providing value,
Yeah.
and we'll definitely charge people for this value, right? It should not be a free lunch kind of thing. Okay, you use the software, you use the data, that kind of. We will start small. So we started with somewhere $20-$25, and we started solving only one problem at that point of time, right? And that problem was to find a product which you can sell.
Yeah.
Right? And
which we
this
classically
problem,
call an MVP sort of thing, right?
probably, yeah, you can take it in this way. Okay, it was an MVP with just a problem, single problem, and this is what we understood at that point of time. Okay, these people have a problem to sell the product.
Correct.
And when we started that point of time, we started as it was, and for us it's always organic, right? So if you go and look into Google, you won't find paid ads or paid promotions for SellerApp. But we will be in, if you look at the Alexa rank, we will be somewhere 8,000 or 9,000 in terms of our website ranking, right? So for us, it's always organic. For us, what worked was the content and the content around the problem.
So one very interesting question around this, like, I will just take a cue from there and fire the first questions. Like, what happens with most of the entrepreneurs? Like, this is something that I have heard a lot in terms of content being highly valuable in terms of specialized products. But there is a time for content to scale up, right, to a certain point. So how did you, like, are you suggesting that there has to be always this gestation period of, let's say, about a year and a half for you to, when you started the company, you put the content as well as you put focus on product? For a very small team, how would you manage this kind of
So for sure, so there will be definitely a gestation period for the content, right? So it won't happen that, okay, in my first 6 months I was not getting much from a content, right? But we were always sure that we can build up this content and this will give us returns, right? So probably the initial 6 months for us to get customers was that we used to go and chat in the groups, as in on the Facebook groups, to understand the seller problem, right? And how we can solve that problem. It was always like, because we were working with the North American market, so it was always like around 6:37, 8 Indian time. We will sit on the Facebook, we will find these seller groups, and we will go and talk to these people. Right, and it was like 11:30, 12:30 in the night. We used to talk to these people, and that was like continuously for 6 months. We used to do that to get the initial set of people, right? So first 100 for us was through, I would say, through this Facebook group, and from then onwards, our content started kicking in. Right, because there was absolutely no content on this space to solving these problems, right? Or there was a content, but which was very generic. So we started targeting with a specific, well-written content which can serve the value to the customer, and which led us to create our space in this probably you can say this gap which was there. And that made us like to get, now if you look at, for us, the daily traffic will be probably 20,000 visits by specifically these sellers, right? Probably 100-150 signups daily, which is, I would say, the right problem there. So we don't know how to convert all of these 150 people, but we get these many signups.
But yeah, at least you are hitting the problem right.
Yeah. So for me, it's always, okay, let's create the problem first and then figure out how to fix it, rather than working in the direction of what will happen if we get 5,000 users, how we are going to solve it. Let's get 5,000 users and we will figure out how to solve it on the way. Right. So there is no point in overthinking and overdoing things. Okay, if I get 2,000 users, how my architecture is going to scale? Let's get 150,000 users first to scale the architecture of the system or to machine.
Absolutely. So one of my friends used to tell me, like, you don't pull out a sword to kill a mosquito. So you have to first, like, you have to have a lion first. Then you think of think of things.
Right, and it's like there is a right line by Paul Graham, right? So you do the things which people say cannot be scaled, right? Because those things will help you to understand what is the problem to scale.
Correct.
Right. So it's always for us. Okay, Facebook, I know you cannot make 1,000 people sit and chat on the Facebook to get the customers.
Correct.
Right. But on the day first, there is no other option also.
Absolutely.
Do you have other options? If you want to go and run ads, you don't know how many people are searching. Right. So for us, the only option is this. Okay, we 2 or we 3 people will sit on the Facebook daily. At least if we are talking with 4 or 5 people, this will give us the insight for sure.
Right. Absolutely.
I know this is not scalable, but let's hit that problem. Let's get first 50 users from there and let's move from there. Right?
Yeah, that's what something we are also doing. so the question now comes is a whiteboard problem that, as an entrepreneur, when you have figured out, like, okay, there are these 3-4 main problems that customers are facing, and there is something that I want to, and since you were running against time, right, as you mentioned, that at the day one you started, you were thinking of revenue and having the most valuable thing out so that people are willing to pay for it, although a small amount, whatever. So for you to decide what are the things that you are going to build in your version 1, and your some failure stories, or if you can just walk us through your first 6 months of product development from
Right. So
perspective.
that's where I was heading to. So if you look at our 6 month, we understood this is space that okay, there is definitely a need for these set of people, or I would say these e-commerce sellers, to find out what needs to be sold, right? But when we jumped into this space, we provided value. We provided starting giving values to these people, and they were paying for it. It was okay at that point of time, right? But in our 6 month, we understood okay, we are trying to build a business for the people who are like, because it's bad to say, but probably like 85 to 90% of these people is bound to fail, right?
Hmm.
That's what generally happens in a startup also. How many
Right.
$1 million startup or $1 billion startups you see? Like,
Right.
but if you look at, there will be a lot of startups which will open and probably close down in a couple of years' time. Right?
Right.
So that's the same with all the businesses, right? So even in the e-commerce space, there will be thousands of sellers which will enter, and that's the number you see on Amazon side as well, right?
Correct.
So, but probably 10%, 15% of them becomes a successful seller
Hmm.
who crosses that benchmark of $100,000 plus,
Right.
right? And we were trying to build a business for the people who are falling into that bucket, right? So we are trying to build a business which is like 90% of them is bound to fail,
Hmm.
right? And when we started getting engaged with these type of people, we started an understanding that in this space, it's not just the only problem,
Hmm.
right? Once the seller hits, or when any e-commerce business hits some numbers, let's say $5,000 for that, for our conversation, let's take that as a number, right? Once he hits that number, his set of problem changes into completely different space, right? And he don't have much control over there,
Right.
right? And he can add much more value to those set of people rather than just focusing on this set of people which are like falling into the lower end of this long tail bucket of these sellers. We
Hmm.
moved into the mid section and we understood that okay, it's a completely different problem sets there, right?
Okay.
Maybe for the seller who is already making 10,000, for him the problem statement will change to at what price I have to sell rather than saying what should I sell,
Right.
right? Because he has invested that money and he is getting that $10,000 worth of sales,
Hmm.
right? Probably what he needs to adjust now to make it from 10,000 to 50,000 and 50,000 to 100,000, right? So it's always from 0 to 1 and 1 to 1,000, right?
Right.
And in this space, when we were working in the initial, we were working from, think of it in -1 to 0 kind of a space. We are helping those set of people which are not sure what they need to do, right? And it's not just this space. So if you look at for those type of for that segment of customers, it not just data, I would say there is more operational challenges which they have to overcome to be successful, right? So your sourcing, your shipping, your logistics, right? Your compliance,
Hmm.
all of that, right? So there is bunch of other operational features which are out of control in terms of, let's say, if we
Correct.
talk the business SellerApp, right? So that's why that switch happened, and in 6 months, 6 to 8 month time, we figured out okay, this is the problem which is there for sure,
Hmm.
but let's move into a midsection where we can provide more value and we can retain more people.
Right. So from the point of like sort of, so this can be classified more like an epiphany kind of a moment where you figured that okay, there is this switch that you need to make. But from, so coming back from the product perspective, like how does that impact your, let's say, operations, the kind of people you had at that time, the feature set that your product had, and how, from that perspective, how did things change, and what did you do then to, from a because product will move gradually, your thought process might move very fast, but
Exactly.
how did you manage that transition of uh, product being evolved, also keeping an eye on your vision? So basically moving these two things together, like, whether your product is growing towards the vision or not. Are you hitting the roadmaps? Are you letting go of your current customers, or you were keeping them intact at that time? So some of these things, can you shed some light on?
Sure. So this is exactly, so you, when you mentioned this point, right, your vision or your product is getting mature. So this is what the feedback initially we used to get from the core team at that point of time, because when
Mm-hmm.
you started, anybody of us when we would have started was mostly like 3, 4, 5 people, right?
Right.
And for us it was always okay, your goal post is changing every time, right? And
Yeah.
every 6 months your goal post is changing. And for us, it's always that, okay, we communicate to the team, this is what we are seeing, right? This is where we have to grow. This is our vision. This is where we have to move forward as a team, right? And this was always, yeah, it was always there that, okay, your goalpost is changing, you are coming with new ideas. But at that point of time, it was always there that whichever things we were doing, that was showing the impact to everybody. Right? It was not just the CS or the sales, even the tech was seeing the difference there, right? So the one incremental change in the feature was making us to collect more data, right? Our server costs were increasing, our sales calls were increasing, our CS responses were increasing, right? So each of these features were bringing in the impact, or whatever smaller impact was that at that point of time to individual teams, but they were seeing that thing grow, right? And that's why we all were into this direction. Okay, let's do this, right? Okay, we don't know whether it will be right or wrong, but let's do this, right? So that was always that point of time. It was always that, and it's now as well. But I'm saying when it's a smaller team, you can see the impact, right? But when you grow, when you have, let's say now we have 50 odd people, I don't know if you go and talk to each and everyone, do you see what you do creating impact? Maybe at a broader level they will say yes, but I don't know, as in, like, let's say if I write a line of code, it takes now one day to go into the production, right? Because of whatever processes we have. Let's do this, let's do that, raise the merge request, raise the all of that, right? But that point of time, it was always, oh, this customer wants this, let's change it. Okay, there is a date problem with this data. Okay, I know the problem, let's fix it. So there was deployment every 5-10 minutes or half an hour. There was things getting deployed, and people were seeing changes. Oh, this code is breaking, let's make this change, put it in the production, right? Around 2:33 you are getting a mail from a customer, because it was the North American market. Around 2:33 in the morning you are getting an email, hey, your login is not working, which means, okay, people want to log in at that point of time. Because of whatever machines is not, let's scale up these machines.
So some of my friends also told me earlier that if you don't have angry customers, that means you don't have customers.
Exactly.
So one of the questions is, like, given your way of, the evolution that you talked about in products, like, can you share with us some scare moments, like, where you really thought that I should have done things a little different, or maybe a little bit of more process should be placed, or a little bit of less process should be placed, or something like that. Like, the scare moments where you thought that, okay, there is this challenge, maybe scaling, like, did you hit the scaling suddenly, or did you hit some feature request a lot many times, or your competitors came in, and so what kind of scare moments you faced during your journey?
Yeah, so there, as in, like, if you look at in terms of processes, yes, it's always there. When you look back, what you have done, maybe even the week before, right? So you will feel that, okay, there is definitely I could have improved. So in terms of processes, definitely there are things which we could have done or improved, but it's always that's the case, right? You are pressed against something. Either it will be resources, money, time, but you will be pressed against something, right? So you have to make those alternative choices, right? And when you call about scare moments, yes, there are like a lot of them, but few which I can easily relate it to was the time when Amazon reached out to us. So what happened, that our initial name was Seller Prime, right? And Prime as a word is that, I mean, it's very close to Amazon, right? Amazon Prime, this Prime, that Prime, and all of that. Right? And when our content started getting us traction, so that was, it's like one and a half year into this business, our content started getting traction, right? Probably that brought in Amazon also to look at, okay, there is something called Seller Prime where a lot of sellers are going, right? And we used to get calls, or we used to get emails as well, thinking that we are Amazon company.
Okay.
And people used to say, hey, my account is blocked, can you help us in that? Oh, we cannot help you in that. My orders, I ordered something, can you help me in that? Right? So just by being that Seller Prime as a name, it was always doubt on Amazon mind. Okay, people think, okay, the Amazon Prime is the word which is related to Amazon. Probably these are related to Amazon as well.
Yeah.
So this brought in attention of Amazon, and Amazon attorney reached out to us saying that, okay, you cannot use the Prime word, right? And if you don't remove it, probably we have to take a legal actions against this. And that was the point. It was for us, okay, why? What made us think at that point of time to take this name? Right? What will happen if Amazon comes very hard on us and do this, right? And at that point, my co-founder Dilip was saying, any negativity, any publicity is fine, right? Even if Amazon comes and blocks us and says that, okay, we are blocking SellerApp because they have used name, for us still that is good. We will get a publicity from an Amazon at free cost that they are banning Seller Prime, right?
Yeah.
But I think it went that wrong, and we got on a call with Amazon attorneys. They said, "Okay, this is against Amazon TUS. If you are using name, you can use some other name. Remove the Prime, right?" And at that point of time, we moved. So we changed our name Seller Prime to SellerApp.
Okay.
Right, and they were okay with app. So, but now the thing is, even Amazon SellerApp is called SellerApp. So that also gets more, lot more people think, no, we are related directly to Amazon. Right, but just removing that Prime also, that particular instance also helped us in getting more closer to Amazon ecosystem. So that brought in a lot of people, which we know, okay, there are people on Amazon side, they look at all of these trends and patterns, right? And they are observing us. They are seeing growth in our space, right? And they also want to make sure that we help sellers, but we don't help sellers in a way that it's get camouflaged with Amazon.
Absolutely.
Right? So we were okay with, so that brought in us closer to Amazon, and that was a right, I
But
would
that
say.
would have impacted a lot of your SEO efforts and the content that you have generated over the years. So
Yeah, so that as in content wise, we have changed a lot, because that took us like at least 2.5, 3 months to change all of that. And SellerApp was at the time, Seller Prime was a domain which we worked. It was zero that point of time, the DA and all, if you look at, right. For SellerApp, we bought the domain. It was a reserved domain. Right. And now I think somewhere we have at 50 or 47 DA for our website.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So from SaaS company which has achieved a product market fit, what are the what are the things that you probably did right in your let's say product, because in SaaS mostly it's all product led growth, right? So what are the things that you think you have done right to achieve product market fit? So for people who are in SaaS space looking for that thing, what would be your advice to them? Like, what should they look at in their products, or in terms of their marketing, or in terms of their customer relations? What should be they doing so that these things can be achieved fast?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, right? So for us, one thing which helped us really was this is space, right? E-commerce analytics in general, right? So this space was fairly new. There was not much competition. There was not much, even not much support, I would say, right? And it was a growing, even now it is a growing space.
Correct.
So that is one thing. And the second thing which I would suggest everybody to look at is to understand your customer. Right? So for us, it was always that we are in touch with people. We are understanding what they want. Right? Maybe if you talk to a customer, he won't be able to express what he is looking at. Right? But just to understand what problem he has helped us a lot. Right? And that particular point helped us to figure out this problem is there. So it was more of a problem fit rather than product market fit. Right? So okay, people are there who wants to pay to get this problem solved. Right? Now it's up to us as a product, as a company, as a team, or as an individual, or whatever you say, to how we can solve this problem.
Right.
So that was a major point for us, which we always kept our heads on. Okay, I need to understand who is my customer, and I have to make sure that the problem which we are trying to solve is there in the market, right? So there is a space for this particular problem, right? And people want to pay for it. And that particular thought process, that particular direction has helped us to grow our product in that direction.
Right.
And more than, I would say, okay, at certain point of time, you will look into product market fit, right? But again, you have to individually look at feature market fit as well. So that was a most important point, which we felt that, okay, how we are going to take a call that which feature we want to keep and which feature we want to move out, right? During our initial phases, it was mostly like, we were, instead of going in depth, we were very broad, right? And that's typically, if you look at SaaS companies from the India, generally do, right? So instead of saying, okay, for $50 you will get all of this, right? But if you look at the companies in the Northern America market, or maybe the European market, you will see that, okay, there will be a companies which will be focusing only on one problem.
Correct.
Right? So if you take the example of Zoho or Salesforce, all of these companies, they have enormous set of features at the same price. And if you look at their competitors, they will only do the CRM. Okay, they will only do the chat. But if you look at in Zoho, you will get everything, right?
Correct.
Which is a very classic example of SaaS businesses from India. Right? So that particular thing has helped us. So this product market fit for sure is definitely one thing which was always there. But we always looked at feature fit, right? Feature market fit. Right? So which feature people want. And if I give a choice to a person, okay, out of these 10 features, you take 5, right? So which of those 5 features are going to be?
Yeah.
That will be always my focus, right? And the last 2 or last 3, I will make sure that there is not much audience for this. I will slowly move into the other as a lower end of my product selection buckets, and slowly it will move out as well. Even if you look at in our content, or if you go and check the Wayback Machines, so we will have the features which initially we have thought we have built, but we have removed at some point of time. Right? So one of them was a sourcing feature, which we initially thought for the people who are the beginner sellers, right? So for them, the major problem is to find a product and from where they can source.
Okay.
Right. So we removed that feature in 6 to 8 months of time, right? Because when we moved into a upper segment of this pyramid, we understood, okay, there are the people who are looking for more different set of problems where which are more impacting them. And if you try to solve problem, that there is going to be more added value. So that feature we removed out. So that this particular, I would say, strategy, the process always helps us to bring in sanity to what we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So and deprecating features even at the cost of few customers means like did
Yes.
you lose some customers because you deprecated features? So that I think
Yes.
is one of the key takeaways, because a lot of startups who are like having few customers around, maybe this would be a very very hard call. But from someone like you, you recommend that you should be letting go of some customers if
I would say yes. At some point of time, we have to take that call, right? What do you want to focus on?
right.
Right. As a small team, you cannot do everything, right? You
Absolutely.
cannot make each and every customers happy.
Yeah.
Right? And it's always there that there will be few people who wants only that particular thing, right? So you have to make the choice. You want to serve 100 people paying you $10, or you want to serve 2 people paying you $100.
Correct.
Right?
So
And that choice, definitely it's hard to take, but at some point of time you have to take those choices.
absolutely right. Now, from one of my questions for my audience, people who are into product management space and people who are like founders, uh, when you go out, like I'm sure that now you have product managers in your team, and as far as from our other discussions, I understand that you used to do product management in early days of your time. What kind of qualities you see in a product manager? Does experience topple, let's say, passion, or what kind of qualities or experiences people must have if they are looking to become product manager, let's say in SellerApp?
Okay, so let's so if you look at that particular thing, right? So yes, I have done product management initially in initial part of our product development and the group, because this is what I generally always say, right? So my product management will not be as a professional product management, right? So I will be by choice. I am by choice, right? I am by need, because there is no one else to do it, and as a founder or as a initial member of the company, you have to do all of this, right? I have done sales, I have done CS, I have done everything, right? So you don't have choice, and at that point of time, I am by choice this particular thing. I'm not professionally PM, right? But when you grow, so what I generally look at, the person who has the vision in this particular domain, right? Maybe he will not be able to explain me each and everything because he is not directly related to my particular domain, right? But as a product manager, he brings in those complementary skill set which I don't have, right? Or which, let's say, other team don't have. If I have 3 people in the team and all of them have the same skill set, that's a problem for me. Right? If I have 3 people in the team, all of them, I would say, are not 100%, but all of them has complementary skill set which can be 100%. That is what I look at, right? So I know, okay, there is a other person who is very passionate about this particular domain, right? Who wants to talk to 100 of people and understand this problem and will get with the right solution. Okay, he may not have that particular skill set. Okay, let's say in this space, he misses those 2 or 3 skills which are must. Then probably yes, if there is another person in the team, or if I have a requirement of other person in the team, I will look for those missing skills. Because if I know that if I make a pair of these 2 people, for sure I will fill that gap of 100% in, right? And if you are lucky, if you get like person with all the skill sets which you require, and
absolutely
probably in the first page itself, right?
Yeah, that doesn't happen. We ourselves don't recommend ourselves for all the jobs. So one of my, I think it might be one of the tough ones. I would like to think that way. But if you look back in like your journey of current business as well as in your entire entrepreneurial journey, what are the few things that you would have done differently?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one and a tough one as well. So if you look at, if that's always there, right? If you look at back in time,
Hmm.
maybe a month back or maybe a year back, definitely there will be the things you could have tweaked, you could have changed, right? And probably you could have not done that thing, right? But I know there will be definitely those instances of the conditions or the circumstances which you cannot change,
Hmm.
right? And you will be definitely have to make that choice against something,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I understand that there will be mistakes, there will be everything for everybody. But if you ask me for a couple of things, I would say if I would have known when I initially started, right? Okay, I need to focus on the mid section of a seller. So I would have completely focused on that part.
Hmm.
So the initial one and not one, probably 9 months to 12 months or 1 year's kind of thing probably has went into that direction where we were trying to understand okay, for this customer, this is not going to like be a long-term game. Like if you
Yeah.
want to make $1 million company, probably yeah, this is not the, or $100 million company, this is not the set of customers you can go behind.
Yeah.
Right. So that is one thing. And definitely, if you give me choice to, let's say, start everything from scratch, right? That is one thing I will do. And the second thing I will probably will focus more on the initial work which we do, right? So
Yeah.
that is one point where I know as it's always the choice, right? So you have to make some choices against something.
Yeah.
But if you put extra effort in initial before we start our journey, like, that's the groundwork which we have to do. That's the basic platform development kind of thing, right? Where you are building things from scratch. That point of time, extra efforts is always good. It can be anything. It can be in your sales process. It can be in your product development. It can be in your technological stack selections. Each and everything. And I would have invested more in that, and because that gives more stability when you grow, right? So when you are hitting scales, you will always fall back. Oh, why I have taken that choice at that point of time.
No, that is absolutely
And
right.
for us, it's always so because of this pandemic. One good thing happened in at least in the e-commerce spaces compared to other, let's say, travel and all that. We have seen huge growth.
Hmm.
Right? So for us, our whole team has become 2x from 2019 end to 2020 starting. Right? The
Hmm.
last whole year, we kept on hiring people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that
Right?
was
And
you
it's
are in
not
an
just
envious
to,
position.
yeah.
Enviable position, like, given
Right.
this pandemic, I think it has become a boon for you. So that's great. Like, and I think let me check when if someone has posted some questions additional to what I have already asked you.
Sure.
So yeah. So one question I think that is coming to mind in general was with respect to your the way in which you are reaching out to customers. So somebody asked me, like, when you are saying understanding customers, you talked to a lot of guys, you understood customers and what they wanted and all. The biggest problem that a lot of people face, that customers are not willing to talk to them, because whenever a startup guy goes to a customer, they generally feel that you are coming to sell. So, what are some of the tricks that you guys employed so that you could get customers to drop their, let's say, you know, drop their apprehensions, that you were there more to sell than to understand what they're doing? So, some of the channels and some of the communication strategies, if you can share some of it with us, then it'll be good.
Yeah, so I understand that, let's say, if you are targeting the customers from a sales perspective, definitely you will get this apprehension that okay, I don't know to talk, or probably let's say okay, I will talk later, right? These
Hmm.
kind of things. But when you use the right words, right? So let's say if I'm talking to you and I understand you are facing problem with XYZ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I say that I can address your X and Y, right? And I need to talk to you about Z, so he will be always open, right? So for us, the initial journey, yes, we also got this problem of okay, from where should I source the people, how I can talk, how what should be my communication thing, right?
Hmm.
And for us it's always okay, I have presented, or let's say my other partner Dilip has presented in a way that okay, we are not here to sell, right? And there is always a set of people we can always go back and say, hey, we are launching this, we are doing this, we are doing beta, right? I want your feedback on this. This is my initial deck, right? Can you just like go through it and give me the feedback, right? So it's always there that okay, we presented, okay, we know that you have this problem, right? We have already solved problem X for you, right? And we are working towards Y and Z, or let's say Z, right? And we want your feedback. We want to understand that how you look at the problem or how differently you look at the problem than us, right? If I give you A and B, or maybe let's say to solve the problem Z, if I give you A and B, right? Do you want C and D as well? If you want to pay, do C and D, what price you can pay? Right? So for all our pricing decisions, or the what next to be done in the feature, right, and what needs to be developed, so it always goes through this particular cycle where we go to the customers, we take the feedback, and they keep on telling us, right? And if you look at, let's say, there are a lot of requests which we get from the customers as well, right? So mostly on the reporting side. So, hey, I have a problem with this particular report, right? Or I want to understand that how much brand wise I am making profit, right? So we have not thought of that particular thing, but yes, customer thinks in that way, right? And we have structured, let's say, get category wise. It for us, it's very easy to just tweak it, maybe a couple of variables of the parameter, and give him on the brand wise. So these constant feedbacks we keep on getting from the customer, and we put it on the list where we go and talk to the people. They tell us to the other, as in the list of people means the other customers, which helps us to set that priority. Okay, 5 people have asked for this, let's do that.
Right, that's great. Like, thanks for sharing so many details about your journey, your product, and I think you went quite in depth about it. Thanks a lot for taking so much time out and sharing your insights. So, guys, we'll close this now, and maybe next time we'll look at some other guest who probably will share some other insights with us. So thanks a lot, Brij, for taking so much time out. Hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Thank you, Rahul.
All right. Have a good day ahead, and all the best for your future growth.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks.
So I'm just going to